Hey there, welcome to the Gyro Step Podcast Network. This is I was going to say a recap. I guess it's not really a recap. I'm off the rails already. This is a Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I am Ty Windisch. I am joined by a cross selection of GSPN podcasters. We have Adam McGee of the Win in Six podcast, and of course, my dutiful co-hosts, Rohan, Katti on the Gyro Step podcast. We are recording after the Bucks dispatch the Indiana Pacers, but this is going to be a little bit more general look at the team through their first 4 games. Fellas, how's it going?
It's going good. I wonder at what points could I get an adjective? I was thinking this when I listened to last week. Like, what does someone have to do? What has to be scaled here? Jordan, I don't think, got an adjective last week. So I don't know if you want to break down the thought process.
I might have given him one actually.
Maybe you did, and maybe that was it. I started thinking, wow, have I ever got an adjective? No, it seems like I haven't.
I think the reason is just like I feel like you're so renowned. People already know all the adjectives that apply to you. But I'll think about it.
What are you trying to say to me, Ty?
I don't need a hype man.
It's a no-win. Right. It's a no-win situation for me on this podcast. Which was not the case for the Bucks against the Pacers. The Bucks are 3-1, and I think if we had heard that a couple weeks before the start of the season, we go, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. They played Brooklyn and Miami and San Antonio and Indiana. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. The Bucks would go. It's not overly impressive for this team. And then if you got all the details on who missed all of these games, how little cohesion and health the Bucks have had. I mean, Drew and Brook Lopez missing 2 games. I think Brook missed 3, and they both missed 2. So the Bucks really have not been. I mean, if you count Dante as a starter, they haven't had their starting 5 all year. If you count Grayson rightly, they've had them exactly 1 time against Brooklyn, and they're still 3-1. And I think their loss was uber disappointing. But on the whole, for a team that's clearly being very cautious and making sure to not overexert anyone to too much of a degree, I think being 3-1 is a pretty big win considering they're without 4 to 6 guys basically every game. Adam, what are your thoughts on the Bucks start?
The Bucks are good. The Bucks are really good, and yeah, in spite of all of the injuries, I mean, it kind of sucks because we got the first game and we got to see something maybe that we weren't even entirely sure in the build up to the season. Some of the question marks are on Giannis. It's like, are we going to get everyone there for ring night? Are we going to get something close to that? Obviously, Bobby didn't make it. And they did. And that was kind of the end of that. And maybe the end of that for a little while yet. But to be kind of weathering the storm in the way they are when you've got 5 guys minimum. I mean, they've had some more. You've got both two-way guys needing to play some sort of role and play some minutes. That's very impressive. I think it's even more impressive considering Brook and Bobby are out and this team desperately needs a competent big just to soak up a few minutes right now. And you come out the other side of it, like tonight, this is against the Pacers. This is a real quality win when you're playing a team that are maybe, I don't know, is there anyone else if either you could think of or would you argue it? They may be best suited to exploit the Bucks having no size, considering they are in this situation where they've got 2 centers that always have to play, that they're trying to work out, well, how do we survive with this? Well, you would think a good way to do it would be to go up against a team that really have no centers and are trying to avoid Giannis being that. And yes, Goga Batadze in the mix and all, but the Bucks won. So, I mean, things are looking really good. I think individually, there's a lot of positives, even with guys, Mamu, the Sandman experience so far, it's been tough, but I think this is really good. If you want to take the flyer on him, part of, I think, what we all would have thought is, when's he going to play in the NBA? We talked about what's his position going to be. He probably needs to be a big. He's not capable of being it right now. But hey, is it a bad thing for week 1, week 2 in the NBA for him to learn where he's lacking, for, to get a clear sense of what has to be done, how far he has to progress? I'm not trying to take us down a Sandman rabbit hole to begin with, but I just think that's the ultimate example of even some of the weirder things they've been forced into. not all bad. And you've got a record of 3-1. It's certainly not something you're going to complain about.
You can't really complain. I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second here. So there's a lot of I've been more active on Twitter recently than I have been in a while. I'm trying to make a concerted effort to do so. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. It's not. It's an experience. I'm trying to make an effort for everyone. Okay. Some people complain that I'm not as active. I'm trying out here. Okay. So a lot of what I've been noticing is just, and this is just Twitter in general and Bucks Twitter in general, especially for this team, it's just panic overreactions. I'm going to take a page out of the book of one of Wisconsin's great athletes. RELAX.
People are panicking.
Big time Packer fan Adam McGee is all over that.
I know. I got that straight away. I was like, I know where this is going.
Just relax. Take a step back. It's fine. Adam, you hit it right on the head. They're not like they're banged up. They're still 3-1 because this team is really good. There's a lot of room for them to grow. Like we're going to talk about, there's a lot of things that they can clean up, a lot of things that need to be sorted and will be sorted with player health, a lot of potential moves down the line, but it's fine. Just calm down for a minute. It's all good.
Can I weigh in on your Twitter strategy?
Sure.
Tweet more, read less. I think that's
bingo.
I think that's the way this needs to go. I people are panicking. I honestly, I wasn't aware of that.
Not panic. Panic isn't the right word, but just
people just get antsy. Yes, we're still doing the thing where game to game, and I mean, who cares? I just tweet stuff. That's sorry everyone who follows me. I just tweet stuff. I'm not reading most of your tweets. Sometimes I see some of them. Sometimes I don't. But yeah, I watch a game. I send a tweet. It's great. It's Bucks basketball. They're the NBA champions, and they're 3-1 to start the season. So, I mean, I knew Ty would approve of advice to tweet more and read less of other people's stuff. It's really advice that Ty could give.
I live by that.
I think in this case, that's the best advice I can give you.
Right I have the tweet shot selection of Chris Duarte. Everything looks good to me. Everybody looks like food to me. I'm putting up everything I can. And so that's how you get some hits. It's nobody bats 1,000, but that's how you get some hits. So let's talk about the injuries quickly, because I do think it's just obviously a huge story of the team. And I think it's a little aggravating to talk about because the Bucks just give you nothing, right? Like we've talked about this before with Bud, who famously, I guess it's just to me, so those words don't apply. But when he was asked during an interview, like I think it might have been the Bucks broadcast. I don't remember who. What are you seeing the team do well here in this early action that you've been working on in camp? He replied, playing 5-on-5, which is just like perfectly epitomizes how little you're going to get from him or the Bucks. We don't have real timelines, I think, on most players, although like Drew being kind of in and out of the lineup really makes you feel like, okay, it's something nagging. It's clearly not all that serious, or he wouldn't have played.
It's a different injury.
It's labeled as such, but do we think it's related or no?
I mean, the first one was a heel contusion. The second one's an ankle sprain. They're different.
Could be. Do we know if it's the same foot?
I was gonna say.
I have no idea.
I mean, they could just be labeling whatever. Like,
I also
sure.
Think they could, yeah.
I mean,
Brooke has missed 3 straight games with back soreness, so I'm not sure if I exactly trust the designations we get. Fair point,
they have
Rohan.
to be extremely accurate, though? Like, wasn't that a point of emphasis after
I don't think
management like 4 years ago?
I don't think they have to be that level. They have
to stop saying load management.
Yeah,
that's what that meant.
They have to give.
So they can just lie.
Well, no, it's not a lie. Drew's ankle was slightly sore once, so he's gonna miss the game with an ankle sprain.
I think like he's legitimately got an issue.
No, I think he does too.
But and I think Brooke definitely has a back issue, and maybe that's something we should be honestly a little concerned about, because this is the guy who he decides to sit on the floor or lie on the floor in timeouts because chairs are not for him, and he has had issues with his back. He's had issues with his foot earlier in his career. So for being the most ridiculously durable Buck, getting a little bit older, some back issues. I mean, we're not at any point to get too worked up about that yet, but that's definitely one to keep an eye on, particularly as we're not getting any change of there's not a, oh, it's his shoulder today on the injury report. So,
and they told us the part that I don't like about it is they told us so far in advance, like in the lead up to Saturday's game, they were like, yeah, Brook's not playing on this trip with back soreness, which is just like, what I don't like about the Brook thing in particular is if he is hurt, that's just concerning. Although again, it doesn't seem like it would be an especially long-term thing, and it's a long regular season, whatever. It doesn't seem like outside of Dante, who we have no idea about Dante, but outside of him, it doesn't seem like any of the injuries are going to be like months, maybe not even weeks.
Do you guys think Dante knows?
Do you think Dante still exists? Do you think Dante just maybe forgot how to play basketball? And
I saw him on ring night, and I felt very sorry for him. I thought that was tough. He got there was a nice pop, good cheer for the crowd, and it was like, yeah, it's rough. I was thinking about too near the end of the game, and Grayson's obviously looking, I think, really good. I know shooting percentages might not quite be there, but
this game helped.
He looks like he's going to make everything anyway. Every time he shoots, you're like, oh yeah, well, that's going to go in. It's like, oh, it didn't, which is kind of the reverse Dante, I mean, based on what we've been used to. So I do feel for Dante, because I think that just must be really, really tough at this point to have watched your teammates go win a championship after you got injured, to now start the next season, and this guy's just arrived. He's,
already
taking your extension, drinking his milkshake, and he's out there, and he's playing really well. And if you're Dante, you're like, oh no, Rodney Hood's back too. What if he looks healthy? That's a tough one. But
he's good on that one so far.
Yeah, he's good on that one so far. But by the time he comes back, I mean, it's the bigs that this is gonna surprise absolutely nobody. It's the bigs I'm concerned about. I was concerned about this going into the season. I kept putting this hypothetical scenario out there where like Brook misses a few weeks and maybe Bobby picks up a knock. And it's like, well, what do you do? And as we found out, you play Mamu, you're like, okay, Thanasis, you've got to come in. You're like, Pat, you're going to guard.
So disappointed about
you're going to guard. No, that's fun as a gimmick. I don't want to see a lot of it. I'm fully on board with some Thanasis minutes, and Thanasis did some really good stuff tonight, particularly offensively in that role. Defensively in that role, how many minutes can he realistically last in the game? Not because you're going to pull him, but because he will foul out if you don't. That's definitely a concern. But even the Bobby thing, I mean, it's the reverse of Brook, where you're getting him ruled out in advance. It's like everyone yesterday was getting really excited about the injury report. It's like, oh, Bobby's back. And then it's like, no, Bobby is not back. So that's an issue going into the season, where you look at the roster, it's pretty obvious. And here we are. That's a problem right away. I don't know what options they feel are there to address it. Maybe they just ride on past it, but it's definitely something that it's got to be monitored, because they're getting bludgeoned on the glass. Like, it's a real problem. All of a sudden, Brook's not there, and it's like everyone gets a reminder. They might be winning, but it's like, what does Brook bring? And you often see people who maybe don't pay the closest attention. They're like, Brook's got 4 rebounds, which has been the story of Brook's career in terms of how people have framed his ability as a rebounder. Robin too. But they are, if not you know what they are. They're the 2 best kind of box out guys in the NBA.
Steven Adams would like a word. He's up there. He's one of those guys.
He's up there.
He's one of those guys too. Same effect.
Personal favorite of mine. I have like limited edition. I think I have like the third of 150 Steven Adams mustache wax.
I remember
Wait,
this.
What?
Yeah, this is real.
Hold up.
Adam didn't
collect
it.
I'll post a picture. No, he sold it. There was some like, he teamed up with some like, I don't know, chic, California men's grooming boutique. There was like a limited edition Steven Adams mustache wax. I was like, this is something I've got to have in my life. So I ordered it. It's numbered. Mine's like the third one. I assume he kept the first 2 for himself. maybe the next like 147 were never sold. But I do have one. I'll tweet out a picture. So I'm not
tweet that out
Steven
right
Adams.
as we're done with no context whatsoever.
I mean, I'll be honest. I watched very little preseason. I watched more than Jordan. But the thing I watched almost zero of was Media Day. The only NBA Media Day content I watched was like a 25-minute Steven Adams Grizzlies interview. So Steven Adams, I'm not knocking him, but Brooke, Robin too, but Brooke in particular, this is what he's really good at. And there's an element of kind of flashback to when the Bucks just used to not be able to rebound at all that you get when you see these games when he's not out there. And I think it's interesting because he's the name. Look, we all know he's getting older. The end of his time with the team is going to come before anyone else. But there are fans, definitely not me, who they'd be quick to be like, oh, maybe you could trade for this guy and you'd use Brooke and this. I'd be like, not quite sure on that. Brooke is to this team in terms of specifically what he brings. He's the linchpin. We know this, but I also think he's really difficult to replace. So it would be interesting if the back issues linger and he misses quite a bit of time, even as Bobby comes back. I think that's something that could be a real eye opener for the Bucks, not just in the now, but also in terms of, okay, well, we have some ideas for this spot in our roster or that spot over the next 2 to 3 years. But what are we really doing at center? What is the plan beyond Brooke? Because at the moment, it's certainly an area of concern.
I'm glad you bring up the rebounding aspect of it. I just looked up the numbers. Again, this is a very, very small sample size. The Bucks are currently 18th in rebounding this season, which is a far drop from their number 2 spot last season, where they were just 0.2 rebounds a game short of the Utah Jazz for the league lead in rebounds per game. So you're right. They're missing a huge part of their rebounding scheme in Brook Lopez. And that's how the Bucks sort of steamrolled their way to a title. They just got more possessions than you. They're going to outwork you. They're going to beat you down low. They're just going to outwork you, outpossession you, outshot you. And Brook Lopez is a massive, massive part of that, literally and figuratively. It's very, very tough to replace. There's very little, if any, people in the league that can replicate what exactly Brook does to this team. And it's already showing how important he is to this team.
Yeah, I think, you look at the Bucks got out-rebounded in 2 of their 4 games so far against Miami by a lot. That game was just, everything went right for Miami in that game. Pretty much nothing did for the Bucks. And they also got out-rebounded tonight as we're recording against Indiana, but they won that one. As Adam said, Indiana basically plays 2 center, although they just really didn't play Miles Turner for most of the game. I don't know what Rick Carlisle was thinking on that one, but I'm not mad about it.
Definitely helped the Bucks. Early foul trouble. Giannis got some kind of early success too his way, but I mean, just looking at
Sabonis,
the Bucks
was a brick wall against Giannis.
That's very
brick
true.
Brick is a good word, but brick shoes, not brick wall. Okay, you say early foul trouble. Do you know how many minutes Miles Turner played in this game?
27.
14.
I know.
14 minutes. And he ended with 3 fouls. He had 2 fouls and 12 minutes with like 3 minutes to go. And I was like, where? I thought he got hurt. I was like, where is Miles Turner right now?
Minus 15 in 14 minutes, which is, you got to put in some work for that. It's not great.
It's not great.
But yeah, I mean, it's the thing, and I tweeted it kind of in game at whatever it was at that point, but you look and it's like, okay, this is something you kind of expect with Giannis, but considering the differential in size, points to the paint against the Pacers, 58 for the Bucks, 34 for the Pacers, which is just kind of wild when you look at the size advantage the Pacers had. That's where you can get away with it. It's like, that's the kind of thing that I think people could just glance at the box score and they're like, oh no, Giannis is kind of a center now, which we all do. And we know when it comes to certain matchups and certain games and the biggest moments, that's kind of true. And you'd say, oh, points to the paint, that's not hurting them. It's not as simple as that, The defensive resistance is not there. Just generally, it's not there at all. Drew missing time is also not helping that. So you are having to go and score. Thankfully, they've got a lot of guys who could do that. They've got role players who are more capable of doing that this time around. Both Giannis and Chris had good games tonight too. But it's just, there's a lot of little things that kind of add up. And the margin for error shrinks. Like, I think the Spurs game, it certainly applies to it. It applies to this Pacers game too. I just had the feeling that if Brook is in those games, they are probably over in the third quarter. You know, the Bucks get to the kind of position they are, and they just put their foot down on their neck. You know, there's no letting them back in and having to kind of manage the game and try to hold on through portions of the fourth quarter. So that is interesting. It is. I'm kind of assuming Bobby will be back for the next game and Brook won't be back yet. It would be a little bit interesting if there's a run of games where Bobby is not just the starting five, but I guess he's the five on the roster, along with Giannis playing some, just to see how that works, what that looks like. I don't know. We'll see. I'm still at that for this particular role. I do think a lot of Bobby's kind of good work came when he was playing with Giannis, and he would often be the four to Giannis's five, even though you'd kind of take good work the other way. But that is the thing. I think when you're looking at this roster, it's just going to be, okay, like, is there a big out there that could help them? I think yes, because I don't think it would take anything like otherworldly to help them.
Can they get someone better than Mamu? Yes.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about Bobby playing. Like, is he an ideal five? No, but they're going to ask him to do the stuff Mamu does, and he's like 1,000% better at almost everything that Mamu does. So they're going to look a lot better.
If you're winning anyway, Ty, if you're winning anyway, do they just look at it and say, hey, we're winning, and we can give Mamu 10 minutes early in the season? Like, is that just a trade-off? Or they're
not when they're fully healthy, because there's going to be too many guys who are too.
No, of course. But I mean, at this point where I think there's like, it's not like they're going to be.
He's not going to disappear the first game Bobby comes back. I don't think.
No, but even right now, like, if we were to project down the line, which is not a very wise thing to do after 4 games, because who knows what happens with injuries, who knows what could change. But if they don't act until, say, closer to trade deadline, or even when buyout guys, like, this is a team that they're going to try and get another, if not a center, they're going to try and get another 4 in the mold of what they did last year with PJ Tucker as the year progresses. But maybe they just go, you know what, in the meantime, we'll just throw at Mamu and see what we get. And we can chalk it up to development minutes. And if it works and he learns something and he becomes a player for us in a couple of years, well, that's great. And if it doesn't, well, maybe we learn something really quickly about him and we could take a different kind of approach with that.
I think unless something happens with Brook where they know he's going to be out for a while, like weeks, not days. And we don't know if it's days right now, but I mean, that's the farthest confirmation we got out, was that he would miss 2 games over like 4 days or whatever the time frame was. But I think it's pretty clear, like, if they were going to get someone before, buyout season or trade deadline or whatever, I think they would have done it by now. Like, just looking at how dire the injuries are, how few bigs they have, clearly they're just like, yeah, we don't care that much. We don't care that much if we go 2-2. The Bucks themselves wouldn't have gone in panic mode if they were 1-3, to be honest with you. Maybe they would have, but probably not. It's an 82-game season. It's not that deep of a hole.
That's Lakers territory, my goodness.
That's true.
They won a game?
Yeah, they did. They barely beat the Grizzlies last night.
If Ja makes a free throw, they don't win. And the Lakers shoot.
They go OT.
The Lakers shoot 58% from 3, and I think Carmelo drops 20-something points, and they barely beat the Grizzlies when Ja missed a free throw. Anyway,
they're gonna miss the playoffs. I can't wait.
Oh, I know, it's gonna be glorious. But I think they would have done it if they were going to do it. I mean, they got Elijah Bryant and paid a huge buyout to bring him over right before the playoffs. Like,
to do nothing.
His regular season scoring numbers are quite impressive. I think he's 18-point per game player or something.
The guy's good.
Essentially nothing.
He's good. I said it last season. He made me not want him to be around for other reasons. But he's good. I've replaced Jordan. For my work, I watch some EuroLeague every week. I got to dial in and watch him go head to head with OJ Mayo in both of their respective EuroLeague debut last week.
How did
Guess
OJ
what?
look?
Terrible.
No.
Terrible. OJ went to take his very first shot in EuroLeague, and Elijah, I mean, he nearly burst the ball. He swatted out of there so hard. So Elijah looked really good, though.
Can OJ be the backup 5?
No.
Might be. He's been heavy enough at times, but
I don't think he's going to play a lot in Europe. But Elijah could play to the points. What was the point, though? Elijah.
You get another guy.
If they want to get a guy, they'll get the guy like pretty quickly.
Here's the question though: will they get a guy? Because a guy would cost more than that open roster spot.
That's why they won't get one until March probably.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah, it does.
I don't want to just leave that as like. I don't want to play into that as in, it's fine. They'll play and they're waiting for a particular kind of guy, because you could get someone and have them on a non-guaranteed deal and waive them in January or make your decision around the time that kind of 10 days come around. Like that's pretty common practice. And if you're a different type of team, you do that. But they're not doing that intentionally because they want to save that money.
Yeah,
and
it sucks.
My one concern with that is Giannis is going to play a lot of 5. What is that going to do to Giannis's body, and what's that going to mean by the end of the season? And also, what was your secret weapon of sorts? You're giving the rest of the league a lot of tape on Giannis at the 5. And I think the more of that you do, the less effective it's naturally going to be over time. He's still Giannis. I do think so.
I'm out on that idea.
I don't think it's the most perfect and seamless thing for him. Like I think people really lean far into, he's kind of a center now. Like, no, he's not. He doesn't look like a center. He doesn't play like a center. It's not the best way to optimize him, not the best way to optimize your team. It's a great tool to have to go to be like, what is our best offensive lineup or what's our best defensive lineup to match up with a certain team. But I don't think your best use of Giannis is always necessarily going to come from that.
No, but like any tool, the only way to refine it is to use it. I think that's a bigger benefit than people getting more tape. Is a detriment.
That's a bar.
I'm out here.
I'm trying to get
through the injury report. We're not even close.
I thought this was the injury pod, so continue. Go on.
Well, I think we're gonna bounce around, but
sure.
We got to talk about the big guys, Adams. Come on.
Well, we're gonna talk. We're gonna.
I came on, and all I'm doing is talking about the big guys. The problems with the big guys.
So we talked about Drew, who was in, out, in. We talked about Brook, who's hopefully this is load management, but we don't really know. I'm sure his back hurts. Here's a question, just quickly before we get to the next name. I think it's Shemi is the only one left. Outside of Dante, do we think that most of these guys would have played in most games if it was like the playoffs?
If it was the playoffs, yes.
That was my thought. I don't know about. I think yes, probably on all of them.
Giannis broke his knee and played. So
yeah, 2 weeks later, 1 week later, 1 week.
Yeah,
1 week, right? Yeah.
I assume so.
That's not. I don't feel like that's a good barometer, though.
I think it's a good barometer.
Bobby would be the one that I don't quite know, because obviously that's been around a little bit longer.
Yeah,
he was at the whole preseason, right?
Yeah, it was open scrimmage when he heard it.
So that's quite a while, and it's a little bit more dicey. I'm not sure if that would be a go, but maybe everyone else.
Shemi with a calf strain.
Yeah, we don't know about Shemi either. We don't know.
Calf strains can be.
Yeah. But
Dante for sure.
No,
he'd be suiting up if it's the playoffs. He would. I know he'd be out there. He'd be ready to go.
He'd be scooting around. But
he's got to be ready.
I think Drew and Brook probably would, which maybe is I don't know. I don't know what that. I just think the way I've been looking at their injuries in particular is like I think they have something that is bothering them, but I think the Bucks are just trying like what they did with PJ last year, where like he was playing through something and he got there and they were like, no, you're just not going to do that because we don't care about these games. We care about the 16 games that we need to win later. Like that's my thought generally on most of these injuries, and the ones that aren't, Bobby and Shemi, just seems like, yeah, they just have nagging injuries that'll hold a guy out. But it doesn't seem to me like, thankfully, knock on wood, I don't think we've gotten like injury derailing seasons. I think we've gotten start to the season derailing injuries, and it hasn't derailed them that much because they're 3-1. But I don't know. I feel like I'm just trying to find a way to say my outlook is kind of positive on these without saying like I'm happy about injuries or something stupid like that.
I've something of a counterpoint to that. We've talked about, obviously, the insane amount of basketball that all these guys have played in the last couple of years. And for this Bucks team, for guys who've returned, and we are talking, a lot of these guys, we're talking about Drew, Brook, Bobby, Dante, I guess. They're guys who returned. They had a deep finals run. Dante was scooting around, right? He's getting his reps in. But seriously, they had a deep finals run. And then in Drew's case, he goes to the Olympics too. So we've had this idea of, well, what does it equate to? If this goes wrong, if they kind of end up really feeling this, what does that look like? And I don't know. I kind of feel like my instinct with that is always to go to like the catastrophic injury where it's like a complete breakdown, where maybe more likely, possibly even, just as troubling is a lot of guys aren't right to start the season and they just don't get the chance to get right. Now, I think the argument would be the Bucks are currently trying to give them every chance, but it doesn't mean that quite gets there, because at some point the guy gets close enough and he's like, yeah, I'm good to go. I want to play. It's a tricky balance. So I do agree with you, but it is kind of, what are we going to be saying about Drew a month from now? Is it going to be that he missed, say, 3 or 4 games to start the season and he's played every game since? If so, then we're not going to have any issues at all. But if it's kind of stop, start, or if it's the same for Brook or whatever it may be, that could be, and I will defer in a moment to the good doctor.
Aspiring doctor.
Yeah, he's already a doctor in my books.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope the medical schools don't get upset about that.
Congratulations, Rohan. You are officially a doctor.
Not officially, just disclaimer.
But I think there is a possibility that those kind of the wear and tear element, and just we can write it off now as being just kind of a nagging or a niggling injury. But if it continues to be an issue throughout the season, that is something then that would be just as much of a concern as just, oh, this guy's out for a month because they've done this. This guy's out for 2 months because they've done this.
Yeah, it's just, I like the way you brought up just the rhythm aspect of it. It's a lot of like the stop start. That's what's concerning me if that were to happen. And Ty, I don't think we're necessarily in agreement here about the severity of these injuries per se, because like Brook is a guy who takes pride in playing games. He was remember his first season, was it his first season in Milwaukee where he missed the last game?
They sat him out, right?
And he was so upset because he wanted to play all 82. So to see him miss 3 games is a little bit troubling, because especially like Adam mentioned earlier, he's a guy who's dealt with these sort of issues in the past, whether it's been a back injury, foot injury, what have you. He's been remarkably durable in his time in Milwaukee. So that's why I'm a little concerned. And the good thing is, like we talked about this up top, the Bucks are winning even without Brook. And even though Brook's importance is being highlighted, and that's good, that's great. But also like they need Brook if they want to win a title. So I'm very concerned. I mean, not very concerned. I'm slightly concerned, but it should be okay because it's the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels to me like there's just a lot of caution in some of these sittings outs. I don't know. We're not there talking to the team or picking up vibes directly, but it just feels like the way that they are talking about these things doesn't have me too worried. I mean, Brook sprung up to go talk to Mamu after he got dusted by Sabonis for the 50th time. It was, and that shows. I mean, Brook's just the best. I mean, I'll never forget in the playoffs him coaching up Bobby while Bobby was playing over him late in series. Like that's why the Bucks have the culture they have.
Also commissions great paintings.
He does.
Can we get one of those?
I don't think
we can afford one of those.
That guy does all the Disney park stuff.
Oh, that's out of our price range.
Yeah. I think it might be.
That
do you want like a similar thing commissions just with the 4 of us?
Sure. Will you do it?
No. I was just asking what your idea was there. You honestly, you do not want to see me try to draw anything. I could try to do my own version of that.
Bust out the iPad, get the notes app with the different colored markers and stuff, and go to town.
No, I'd old school. I'd get some coloring pencils out.
There you
go. And it would look like a 3-year-old child did it. That's what the end result would be.
That's what people say my handwriting is like, so it could be worse.
That also stands for me.
Yeah. And Rohan's an aspiring doctor, so even if yours is good now, it won't be good for long.
His does not look like a 3-year-old, I'm sure, but no one can read it.
Yeah. Last injured guy to talk about, Semi Ojeleye. As you mentioned earlier, Rohan, dealing with a left calf sprain. I really hope he gets healthy for obvious reasons, and just because of the frequency with which Bud and Horst will say his name first whenever they are asked by Eric Name or others, like, do you think you're too small? Do you think you need another big? Twitter says you need another big. Are you too small? Is there not enough size behind Brook, et cetera, et cetera? They're always like, oh, we think Shemi's going to do a lot there. I just want to see what that is. Like, do they just see him as like a really good stretch four that really helps with Giannis and maybe even Portis at the 5 more? Do they see him at the 5 in some of these super small lineups we've seen with Pat/Chris as the 3/4? I don't know, but I'm just so intrigued because I was obviously high on Shemi, but it feels like the Bucks are.
I was gonna say, where we
high.
at on the Semi Ojeleye discourse? I mean, I was here for.
Well, it's paused. It's on hold.
Oh, I'll let Rohan speak for himself on that. Is it paused, Rohan? Are you?
Have you
come to the table on this?
It's paused. Like, we haven't seen anything to actually have discourse on. That's the thing. We can't. It's this is just a general thing. You can't. If there's no new information, you can't really make any new arguments.
You tell that to ESPN regarding Ben Simmons and Kyrie Irving, because I don't know if they've gotten the memo.
No, it's your morning paper. That's what it is. You just get the updates. Like, has anything changed? Nope. Cool. Let's do this again tomorrow.
Yeah, it is. It's just like, I'm just bummed. I'm just so excited. It's funny because
I think the discourse is getting a little out of control. Like, the hype is getting.
I think it's slowed down though, because it's just been so long. Like, I don't even really see people talking about him anymore.
Yeah, why would we though? I'll be honest. I do not care about Semi Ojeleye. Like, I have literally. It's like, sure, he's there, but
yeah.
I mean, my expectations are not super high, and if he's not playing
very high
season,
on Semi.
that's tough. Like, they do need it. If they are, like, the way they're talking, part of that might be a game, but part of that is also an accurate representation of the roster they've given themselves to work with. Like, again, Pat was guarding Sabonis. Like, I know we've talked about, Pat as a 4, that kind of makes some sense for him. That is not the version of that I had in mind, where he's guarding someone who is, like, legitimately center sized. But yeah, I mean, we'll see when he plays and if he plays and how he plays. But we have seen he's not like some sort of exotic player who's come across from Europe that we don't know about. We have seen Semi Ojeleye play before.
In the words of Nikias Duncan, there's film of what you did.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you can win me over, Ty, but I think Semi Ojeleye is who I really need to win me over on Semi Ojeleye, and he's going to need to come to the court for that.
He's got to prove it. I mean, listen, throw Shemi's Boston tape and stats out the window. That's the outhouse.
Why? It's all I've got.
That's the outhouse.
That's it. Otherwise, he's just some guy.
I don't even know his name anymore if I throw that out.
Listen, I'm just saying it's the outhouse. You have to take into account.
You know what the toughest thing for him is? It's kind of a Dante-esque situation too, in that, like, this would be his chance.
Oh yeah.
If he was healthy, this is the ideal
construction.
Will he?
Yes. Yes, he will play over Sandru Mamakele-Shvili when he's healthy.
But will he have to play? Like, Brook and Bobby get healthy before Shemi comes back, and like it depends on way things shake out. And it's just like, let's assume Dante does come back at some point and is part of the rotation. You've got Grayson playing how he is, not an injured player, so that's hence why he hasn't come up yet. George Hill's kind of got a little bit of bounce, more than I expected.
I want to bounce to some of the new additions for this year after this. So but I'm with you.
I'll pocket that.
People tried to say some spicy things to me about George Hill. I said, no, you can't. Don't judge George Hill off 2 games. But now he's had 2 good games, so
he doesn't play for the Sixers anymore.
That's the other outhouse.
That's the outhouse.
That's the latrine. That's not even an outhouse. That's even worse. At least the Celtics got to a conference finals this generation.
You know what name we're not mentioning in terms of why Semi Ojeleye might not be as important? and I tweeted this during the game.
TA.
It's Thanasis.
Yeah.
It's Thanasis. He's been, do I say incredible to start this season?
Don't say that. That's no.
I don't even feel like that's not even me doing a bit. Like I feel
that is you doing a bit. You're just you're lost in a bit. He's been good.
He's looked quite good compared to expectations. Here's the reason why Semi will get a shot, even though TA has played well to expectations. His offense.
Are we sure Semi can match what TA is doing right now?
Yes, because TA's offense is.
We don't know that though.
What do you mean we don't know that?
But I'm not sure based on anything we've ever seen.
Can I say the thing?
Okay.
He can shoot. TA
can he?
Can he?
Yes. He's
what
39% from the corners over the last 2 years, I think.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
PJ was also really good from the corners.
PJ was the lead. He had the most corner threes in the NBA.
And then he fell off a cliff. Is Shemi 36 this year? Did I miss that development?
No, but I don't. The other thing with that is I don't think we need to bank on that anymore because the Bucks just have better shooters. And they've got more guys.
That's fine. It's still more helpful to do that than to not. TA's offense is dunker spot and dribble handoffs.
And he's really effective at it.
Dunker spot is important for this team, though.
It is. But you can't only do that. Yeah, you cannot only do that.
He's been only doing that and being good.
He had, until this game, by far the worst advanced stats on the team.
What advanced stat? On what?
Net rating. They got blitzed in his minutes.
That's your advanced stat?
Yes. That's an important stat. They got blitzed when he played.
It is technically an advanced stat, and it's, it is the first one I would look to.
Killed when he plays? The offense is a problem. His offensive limitations are a problem.
Through 4 games, he's minus 8.2. And it's on the offense. It is on the offense.
And it ignores
96.2 offensive
context.
rating.
I don't like that stat.
It ignores context. I mean, it's not perfect. No advanced stat is perfect. I don't think he's been a train wreck through 4 games, but I just think his offense is an issue for this team. Like I saw at one point, he's kind of driving, and Miles Turner is just like planted right by the paint like Brook Lopez normally does. And he's just like, you're just going to go give the ball to someone else. I literally don't need to move. And he didn't. And it's just, look, that's fine. Like, TA shouldn't be shooting. He doesn't really have a shot, but it's great that he can score, be just working from dunker spot. And, sometimes if he has an athleticism advantage, he will go to the rim and he'll make some. I just think at the very least, Semi will get a shot to play because I think it's just hard when Brook and Giannis are playing to have a guy who only exists there. I think Brook not playing probably helps a little bit with TA's offense because there's only so many spots for Brook on the floor too. And he's been making some threes when he's played, but we know in the playoffs, teams aren't going to fear him that much outside of those areas either. You can only have so many guys like that. So I think TA's played really well. I think he's going to play probably in almost every game this season to some extent. I don't think he's going to be the expected backup 4. If you say the 4th big, we'll say if we Brook, Bobby, Giannis as the first 3, 4s and 5s on this team are hell to figure out. I think Shemi's at least going to get a shot. I think TA could maybe beat him out, but I just think it's really tough. If he's out there with Giannis and Brook, it's just the spacing is kind of a mess. The defense is great, but the spacing is a mess.
We'll revisit this once Semi plays.
Do we want the context? Because I know that is a context. Do we want the context for TA's minus 8? Because
is it Miami?
Yeah, he was a minus 29 in 18 minutes against the Heat. So that will certainly sink any chance of a positive net rating. When you're dealing with a 4-game sample size. So that's really he's getting punished pretty severely for that. And more than any other book except Justin Robinson is the only. He was a minus 35 against the Heat. Not a great game for some of those guys. But on the point, we're talking about TA, we're talking about Semi. Let's imagine the roster is fully healthy, and let's imagine the playoffs start tomorrow. So you've got your first choice starting 5, which I don't think any of us are going to have any quibbles over.
I think we're all here. I'm excited to talk about him in a minute. I think we're all here on that.
Okay, so Pat's going to play. That's 6.
Yeah.
George Hill's going to play. That's 7. Right now, it's tough to imagine Jordan Warren not being in the mix.
I don't think he would be.
I think he would get a chance. Like if it's a playoff series, he's going to play early, and he would be one person that gets excised from the rotation. If
it goes wrong, it could go really wrong, and
he'll get a shot.
Yeah. Forbes. For me right now. For him, it's the Forbes idea.
It is, but he's like
he's
supercharged Forbes in every way now. Maybe are we going to talk about him? Maybe not, because he's not really a new guy, but
he's new to actually playing a real role. But
okay, I'll save that for a second. Okay, so that's 8. I mean, if Dante's back, there's probably some minutes for Dante. I didn't mention Bobby. Like,
oh yeah,
that's like you're 10 guys, and that's without Semi or TA. It's like they are not playing. Semi Ojeleye is not playing on this team unless he's shooting the lights out all year long. Because if they've guys who can kind of hold their own on defense, or even be kind of, I guess, the cracks covered over by your multiple kind of all defense caliber players, I don't think you're going to that well. And this is the thing. When PJ left, it was the thing I kept saying, and I feel like I'll keep saying this season. PJ's gone. The Bucks cannot try to win the way they won with PJ Tucker, because I don't think they've got a player as good as that. They got some good fortune to get away with the version of PJ Tucker they had, and to do that. So you've got to do something different. I think they've got the tools to do something different and be really effective. So for me, I think the rotation is going to trend smaller. You're going to be playing guys up. You're going to have more offense, much more scoring. And I think you could still have a really good defense. So I don't know. That's kind of more than anything, like Semi being injured doesn't help. But I'm like, this team has a lot of really good players. I don't actually see where a really big role evolves for him, unless there's injuries down the line.
Against Brooklyn, I think he's going to get shots as the KD defender who they're just like, that's what you're doing. And TA might too. Why are your eyes facing Rohan? Yes, you need that. Yes.
I don't think you did. Well, is Kyrie vaccinated?
I think you need to worry about Kevin Durant, even if Kyrie is.
Sure, okay, but if you don't have to worry about Kyrie, then you've only got Harden and Durant to worry about.
That's all.
Yeah, but I'm saying you don't need to be like, we're gonna play Semi Ojeleye. Like that's
kind
of galaxy brain. You'd be like, we're gonna go with Giannis and Chris for some of that. Like,
for some of that, I agree.
He's not getting under his skin like PJ.
No, you don't need to get under his skin. You have to.
That's a lot of what PJ's value was.
He made him work, and the Bucks made him work as a team by throwing a lot of guys at him. PJ was the primary one. I'm not saying Shemi's going to start and play 38 minutes a game. I do think he is going to get cracks at that. I think that is why they brought him in, to be a big-bodied defender who they can throw at Kevin Durant.
It's definitely why they brought him in. But I just...
Is he going to do it? That's a different question.
So have we swung on this because he hasn't played 4 games? Because I don't feel like this was a hot take before the season.
Well, you haven't spoken to me in a while, Ty. But I think there's an element to prove it here, because he has the misfortune of having been quote unquote Giannis stopper, and we saw how that developed over a not very significant period of time. So it's like, what are we talking about? Like, he's going to be the KD stopper. It might work for one game, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what way it goes. Certainly fortunately based on the Bucks last year, but playoff games are not played over 1 or 3 game series. So I don't know. I mean, it's useful. It's useful to have. It's something where you can look at and be like, sure, he's an option. But I think the Bucks may be a very, very different team in terms of how they approach that matchup, even if it comes around this year, than what we saw last season.
Shemi's just not, I don't, again, this could all be different once we see him play.
Sure, I'm prepared to backtrack on all of this.
Yeah.
I've done it before in worse situations.
Bobby, whatever. I did agree with you on your earlier Bobby take, though. But in terms of Semi, it's just like, Pete, we keep talking about PJ Tucker and his defense on Durant. Oh, he made him work. He put the fear of God into every single follower of the Milwaukee Bucks, and that's PJ Tucker's defense. That Kevin Durant just absolutely put the fear of God into every follower of the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah,
I don't know how if PJ Tucker has this reputation of being a great defender, What the hell is Semi Ojeleye going to do? He has had no track record of being a good defender, like an elite stopper defender.
What he's known for is being a good NBA defender. He's known as a stopper. They don't win playoff series. You don't get that rep for playing in the regular season for most guys.
Yeah, but
for most guys, that is one, and that's because that's literally all he does. And he plays on a team that people love to talk about.
For those listening on the podcast feed rather than watching on YouTube, I am in the middle of the screen, and I feel like I may be in the middle of this debate, and I think the truth lies in the middle of this debate because it's not like he has never been a good defender.
I'm not saying that.
Well, you came very, very close.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
And it's also not that he is not by any stretch of the imagination like this proven defender where you're like, yeah, this guy is.
He is a useful big body defender. That is all I'm saying. That's fine. That's it.
He's a big body defender. You take useful out of it, and we'll see. Yeah. He may be really useful. He may be useless. But at the moment, he's a big body defender. He's their designated big body defender. And I don't hate that. Like, there's nothing wrong with the pickup. There's nothing wrong with the logic behind it. I just think the team has evolved, and whatever their intentions may have been on paper when, John Horst mapped out this roster, I think the play of multiple Bucks by the time we reach the kind of business end of the season may just force that to be altered. Like it's going to be a different. Yeah, this team could just blow teams away offensively in a way that they were not suited for last year because we were trying to get like anything out of Jeff Teague. That is not the situation.
Offensively,
PJ Tucker, sure, but there was room to carry someone for specific matchups, which is your case for why Shami's going to matter again. But what if you could just outgun the Nets? And you can outgun the Nets. I mean, the Charlotte Hornets did it yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking regular.
The Bucks did it.
Yeah,
no, but my point is the Bucks, like this year's Bucks, could absolutely do that.
Maybe. I still think you need to throw. I just think you need a guy to throw at KD for an X amount of minutes per game. That like the reason you need that guy is because you just don't want Chris or Giannis exerting that much. Because if they're exhausting themselves,
it'll be the same result.
Really think so?
Yeah.
I agree.
You versus Shemi, same results on Kevin Durant.
No,
you might honestly be.
Let's reach out to some agencies and see if we can set up a couple drills. Let's see how you both do.
Your point about, and this is what we lived and died by last year. PJ was out there to save Giannis and Chris. I don't think Giannis and Chris will need to be saved to the same extreme this year because you actually do have some bench players who will be able to score. Like, I think that is the evolution of the team. That is the difference. You are in a much better position to be able to say, Giannis, we're going to have you guard Kevin Durant rather than give Semi Ojeleye minutes. Because if you score 22 points instead of 30 because you're tired, we can live with that because we can make up those points in a way we didn't a year ago. That's the thing I'm looking out for, and the thing I think is really feasible. And if I was anyway involved in the Bucks organization, like that's what I'd be working on this regular season, as opposed to like, can Semi Ojeleye give those minutes? Like I think the PJ Tucker role, the PJ Tucker ship has sailed. I don't think it's necessary. If you've got more capable offensive players, which this team has like in bunches.
So you think they're gonna hit? You think the Milwaukee Bucks are gonna hit shots in the postseason?
The Milwaukee Bucks. I don't know if you know this. Let me just. I've got a hat on here. It says champions,
and that's not how they did it. Listen, I agree.
They hit some shots. They hit some shots.
They hit exactly enough.
You want Pat Connaughton in the rafters? I believe he hit some shots.
He did. He shot 38% from three. Led the team. It felt like a miracle that they hit, considering the way the Bucks always shoot in the playoffs. I think they need to have options, and I think that's the real thing. Like, I think they would love to win with offense. I think that's why they acquired and extended Grayson Allen, who I'm excited to talk about. But I also think
do it. I think we've talked long enough.
I think they want the option to play the other way still, because they saw if they're not falling, you need to find another way to win.
Sure, nothing wrong with options. I think Rohan and I just do not think that is necessarily the best option and the one they'll be using. Where, I mean, have you got a jersey yet?
It'll be an option. It'll be
See
an
your
option.
new JOB?
Got to see him play first.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was what I don't know what you guys think my Semi take is. I think he's going to be useful. I don't know why it's such a contentious take.
You're just very defensive.
Being a useful big body defender on Kevin Durant is a lot to ask for.
Not apparently you can do it. So apparently they could ask Justin Robinson.
I didn't say I'd be
same
useful.
Effect.
I did not say I'd be useful.
Grayson Allen.
He's not missing a shot.
I'm cutting the tension with a knife here.
Grayson Allen.
Grayson Allen. Yeah, let's do it.
He's the defender on Kevin Durant.
He did get a block and a steal against Indiana. He finally hit his shots too.
In all seriousness, yeah, the shot.
He was 2 of 8 from deep. Like he did not hit his shots.
What?
Yeah, he did not hit his shots out. This is
9 from deep.
Oh, sorry, that is the Miami Heat box score I have open in front of me. Let me just
I also have the Spurs one up, so I had to look twice too.
I have all 4 up, and I had the wrong one open at the time. He's 4 of 9 from deep. Really good night. I just my point, and it kind of applied for the Heat game too. I just think he's gonna make every shot. He's just really, really good. He's already kind of got down all of the spots. It feels very instinctive for him in terms of working with Giannis, working with Chris, being in the right position. He is the best shooter, whether it plays out that way percentages or not, just in terms of knowing what his role is within this team, within how other guys this team play. He's the best shooter they have had, with the exception of maybe like 40-year-old Kyle Korver, which was never going to work in the way that this is going to work. And beyond
Still
that,
available.
Yeah, I think
could he defend
now,
Kevin Durant?
He
did. He's on the Nets. He's actually defending Kevin Durant in practice.
I mean, he's like what, 6'6"? He's as tall as Shemi.
He's 6'7" with some length.
He's taller than Shemi.
He's kind of long arms too.
Pile up on your receipts, Rohan. I can't wait.
Grayson, though, the thing with Grayson is like it was a weird finish where it was kind of two-handed going left under the rim. Do you remember this in this game?
He's a windmill layup guy.
Yeah, it's kind of, there's a few weird finishers, like TA being chief among them, but effective finishers. But off the dribble, that move, that's where you're like, oh, the Bucks have not had a shooting guard who could do this since Malcolm Brogdon, and it was only all too brief where you got that version of Brogdon. So to have the backcourt just like be good, that is not familiar territory for the Milwaukee Bucks. But like almost ever, there's only been 2 or 3 teams in the history of the franchise where both the starting point guard and the starting shooting guard were both really, really good players that are like perfectly suited to their role. And with Grayson Allen, that's exactly the territory they're in now.
Yeah, I was surprised he didn't get any assists in this game. I think that's been part of what he's done well, but I think part of it is, I think the Bucks are all in on that belief you have, Adam, that he's not going to miss a shot. I feel like this team is funneling Grayson Allen threes, and I was glad to see it not take too many games for him to just like actually start knocking these things down at an impressive clip, because I want that to remain. Like, I would love for them to have finally, since Brogdon probably, a guy who can be like, they just love to pass to and watch him hit threes. Like, for whatever reason, Chris never catches and shoots as many threes as he probably should. Now he's on ball so much that it's harder. But they just really have not had that many guys where they're like, oh, if we go 3 straight possessions and each one is a Grayson catch and shoot 3, we have no issue with that. Pat kind of flirts with it, but he's not a starter. He doesn't really play enough. He's doing too much else. Like, it's a little bit of a different thing. You can feel that with Grayson, that they're like, oh yeah, if every possession that's a shot for this guy is a good possession. Add that to what he does off the bounce, and the fact that I'll use the word useful again. I think he is an adequate defender. I think he kind of in a Wara-esque way makes up for not being the greatest play-to-play on or off-ball guy by just like, he'll poke a ball out now and then, he'll block a shot. here and there because he is athletic. But I just think what he does, the combo of everything he does offensively, right? Like drive, pass, shoot, and I think that's all the things. It's just good. It's just useful. And I do feel like it's going to unlock a lot for this team. I wish we'd gotten to see the 5 starters for more than the one game so far, but it does feel like they're going to be able to pile on points. Like when Brook is hitting jumpers, forget Giannis. When Brook is hitting jumpers, I don't know what you do about guarding this 5.
And the thing about Grayson is, excuse me, is you mentioned it, just a catch and shoot guy, which is, it's very different than what the Bucks like to do. Like Dante, for instance, like he upped his 3-point percentage last year. It was like mid to high 30s. It was good for him. Whenever he catches the ball, he's immediately looking to drive. Brogdon, even you brought up, he wanted to drive that right away. Even when Pat catches, he wants to go cut and drive. Grayson's going to shoot it. Grayson's going to sidestep a defender closing out so he can get a shot off. And that's what he did in this game. He got a 3-point shooting foul out of it.
And he's going to get a lot of those with that.
Yes. And the thing is, you mentioned this too, Adam. He is getting to his spots. He is getting to passing lanes for Giannis. That play in particular where he got the shooting foul is he moved directly into Giannis's secondary passing lane. Because I think Marcus Johnson brought it up on the broadcast when they looked at the play again. Giannis wanted to go to a corner on a drive. He was midair. He wanted to pass to the corner. And then he saw that, oh, shoot, the corner's covered. I have to get this ball to the wing. And that's where Grayson was. He wasn't there initially. He was a little off there, but he saw Giannis needing a passing angle, and he immediately went to the spot where he could find him, and he was ready with a quick trigger. And that is what is very, very important about Grayson Allen. And he can actually finish. We talked about this earlier. He can actually, it's wild having a 2-guard that can actually like put the ball in the basket from close range.
Biggest difference, I think, like just outward difference. Like the finishing is one. He's a better shooter, but I think the thing with him and Dante, we had a mailbag episode, Jordan and I, probably close to 2 weeks ago now, where it was kind of eye-opening because the mailbag questions were split entirely on people who like were sky high on Dante and think everyone else is insane for being like Grayson's better, Grayson's the starter, or people going the other way. So it's just there was such this clear divide. The best reason I can give for Grayson just being so much better than Dante, unlocking so many more options, is that shot where he got fouled is a good example. He can relocate and shoot. Like we're just like praying, oh, maybe Dante can hit a catch and shoot every now and then. That's Grayson's bread and butter, but he can also relocate. He can shoot, and it doesn't just have to be, clean catch and shoot. He is nails if he gets those looks. But more than that, he is a level up as a shooter, beyond what we could even like hope that Dante was. We just wanted Dante to be a good catch and shoot guy, and he was inconsistent with that. That is there for Grayson Allen, but he is a much better and kind of takes on much tougher shots than Dante could ever really hope for. And that just, it gives a completely different dynamic to your starting 5. You just got a much more well-rounded player, a player that he's going to be your 4th or 5th guy in most lineups he's out there. But teams are going to have to give him more respect than they would ever give Dante. Like, you can't just be like, oh, let's forget about that guy. It's quite the opposite. You're going to get moments where guys are going to kind of go over and help on him, and you could get Chris or Giannis getting looks because Grayson Allen does pose a real threat.
The other thing, too, about him versus Dante offensively, in addition to the shots he can make, it's the shots that he will take. And this is what I was talking about, like the team funneling him shots. Reminds me of George Hill when he led the NBA in 3-point percentage. It was great, and it is great. It's a good thing. It just matters less if you're taking like 3 a game, right? Like it's good, it's helpful. It's only so many points total. It can dry up quickly. George Hill this year is taking 2.8 threes per game and making 45% of them. It's great. It's awesome. You don't need that much more. That's just how it is. Grayson is leading the Bucks by a wide margin on attempted threes. 8.8 attempts per game. Next is Pat with 6 per game. So nearly 50% more than the next leading guy on the team shooting-wise. Like, there's a gulf. And that's after he was cold for the first 3 games. Even after the Pacers game, he's shooting 31.4% from deep. But like clearly everyone is like, oh, he's a shooter. We're going to get him shots. I think there's some he passed that he probably shouldn't have, especially in the Brooklyn game. Might have been just kind of a nervy thing. And the Miami game, just again, an abject disaster from start till finish. But that, I think, speaks for itself. Like, that is a ton of threes per game, and I don't think anyone has any problem with the attempt number.
No, not in the slightest. The attempts are good. You want a guy who's going to gun and shoot for threes. Like, we had this with Bryn Forbes. We had this with Kyle Korver. That's a role on this team. But if you can add more to that, like what Grayson's doing, that's just what puts him over the top.
What new guys? We got to blaze through the new guys. We were going to go short. Then we argued about Semi Ojeleye, of all people, for 20 minutes.
The host refused to move it on. He dug his heels in the sand and he said, we're not moving until we talk through this.
This is a commune podcast. We're all invested in this together. I'm not.
I was ready to move it on. Who are we talking about now? Who do you want to go to?
I want to talk about Justin Robinson.
Wow. Okay, I was not expecting that one. Quick wrap up coming here. Let's talk about Justin Robinson.
I'll do George Hill in 2 seconds. He looks like positive George Hill again. Like I think he's back there. I think he's going to be very useful. I think is he going to be a Jordan Clarkson 18 off the bench per night guy? No, of course not. If you expected that, I don't know what you were thinking.
That's Jordan Nwora.
Yeah, that's the other.
Bucks
Jordan.
don't want George Hill to be that.
No, at his age, no. Like he is, they're like, don't do too much. I think they probably don't want him to play as much as he's been playing, quite honestly. But he's been good. Justin Robinson, I'm fascinated. I didn't think he was that much of a defender. I thought his defense has been really good. His playmaking's been good. The shot has just been atrocious, but I'm intrigued.
He's had some questionable play. I mean, okay, let me not be. I won't be too harsh. Ty, you're right. There are some flashes of good things that he's doing on the court. He has a lot of good defensive.
He does have a negative assist to turnover ratio. I will give you that.
Yeah. I mean, he has good ideas in terms of what he wants to do with the basketball. It just doesn't translate that well. Like the instincts are there, which is good. Like defensively, the instincts are there. He's just too small.
Yeah.
That's a lot of the problems. And especially like, I feel like there was one play in this game where he had a transition opportunity and he missed Jordan Nwora trailing right behind him and instead threw it out of bounds. It was questionable, but there are some things, and he's being forced to play because again, Drew Holiday is missing time and he's the backup point guard because George Hill is the starting point guard. It just has to be a thing. It's the regular season. If this was the playoffs, he would not be. He would be. No, he would. He would be. We saw Jeff Teague for way too much time.
We did, but I think there's levels to. I'm intrigued by the guy. I don't think he was nearly as good as last year, Jeff Teague. And I thought last year Jeff Teague sucked.
Justin Robinson's 24. It's his third year in the league.
Oh, there it goes. See, this is the same moment. People are going to be mad. Same exact moment I had with Mamadi Diakite. I was like, oh, this is pretty intriguing.
Did you think he was younger than that?
Yeah. I was like, is he 20, 21? Oh, he's 25 this year? He's Giannis's 24. Age? I'm out. Yeah.
That did it. Thanks, Adam. Sorry, Ty. Like he's good. He can play a bit, and he hasn't looked lost. Strong.
Yeah.
No, I think in a relative sense, in the wider scale.
He's
like in terms of basketball players on the planet. Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's good.
Oh man,
he looks like a guy. He's not kind of lost at sea and having to play minutes in the NBA because he's literally done it before and he's 24 years of age.
Yeah.
So I'm not really impressed by anything because I'm like, yeah, he's got to kind of be able to do this to still be just kind of knocking around the league at this point. But also for the Bucks to be like, we want to use our two-way on a 24-year-old, he'd want to be good.
Yeah.
So I guess he kind of is.
4 steals tonight. I think he's had 5 on the season now. You know what I think? I think I have a soft spot for players like this. Real listeners know.
Players who you're going to see in Oshkosh?
No, I stand Mike James. I was like, this Mike James guy is incredible. And then you look at the numbers, just like, oh, maybe not. I don't know. Something about these, it's just gutsy. I don't know.
Mike James also looks good in in Euroleague.
I bet J-Rob would
too. He was really good before he came to the Nets.
It's kind of wild that he is back in Europe. I don't quite understand that, but I've seen him play a couple times for Monaco this season. He looks good.
Should we talk about Hill more? Did we cover it?
I think we covered it. I
think we covered it. He looks bouncy. That's the thing that I was not expecting. I mean, if I was going to say anything else on George Hill, I do not understand how his ranch is just as big as it is, because his contracts do not add up to that amount of money.
See, here's the thing. Everyone was surprised to see that video, but he had that. Like, I knew about that for a while because he was on the Road Tripping podcast like 5 years ago or 4 years ago or something, where he talked about his ranch. And I was like, oh my God. He was like, it's 800 acres. I was like, oh my goodness.
There's knowing that too. And I mean, I used to follow him on Instagram. I think I may have unfollowed some points because there was a lot of hunting photos. And I was just like, great, I don't need this. I just really don't need this.
He imports animals into his ranch so he can eat them.
Yeah. I was like, cool. All right. I don't need this. I unfollowed him. I had to put in a follow request when he joined the Bucks again. He has not accepted it. I'm sure it's like at the top of his to-do list. He's private, unless he's changed it again since.
Last time I checked, he was private, yeah.
But I knew all about the ranch, but there's knowing about the ranch, and then there's actually seeing the ranch and seeing the whole team and seeing like there was like 4 coaches, like not Bud, Darvin Ham, and buses. There's like 4 buses, and they're just like parked up there. It's like, oh yeah, it's wild. Like, we're talking about a guy who backup point guard, probably for just a little bit more than he's a starting point guard in the league, like a really good one. But yeah, I guess the NBA money is good.
The thing to know about non-Dallas, Houston, Texas is there's a ton of it, and it doesn't cost as much to live there as you would think.
You have all the animals, Ty, and
they come for free with the land. It turns out.
Nice stuff. I don't think some of the animals George Hill has.
Not his.
They are not native to the Texas.
George Hill has made about $110 million.
Pocket change. That's nothing to Adam McGee.
No, 110 million is obviously a lot of money. One, he has paid taxes on some of that. He has not played his entire career in San Antonio. I'm sure he's had some good accountants. That's what I thought when I saw those pictures. My first thought was, boy, he's got some good accountants. I hope he introduced the accountants to the rest of the Bucks when they were there. Was the accountant there enjoying some barbecue too? But there's a lot going on there. It was a lot to unpack. All of the cars, he had like 30 or 40 cars. It was like, if this is Giannis, I'm like, yeah, sure. But this is George Hill. Good for him. That's my
even
take
if he's made like $50 million, is it just an insane amount of money? Like, that's, you never run out.
Sure, but if you like really spend it, well, then
it's tough. 50 million's a lot.
Well, George Hill's been trying. This is what this tells me.
You can fit like 8.5 Irelands in Texas. They have the land. It is available.
Probably more than 8.5.
It's about. Yes. I did the math. I looked it up actually.
Wow.
Ooh.
I thought I could wow you. It's about 8.5.
I was actually very impressed with it.
Thank you.
I'm less impressed now you told me, because it's like you've spent the last couple of minutes.
Offhand? Yeah, it took me.
No, I just thought you were just guessing, and I was like, yeah. No, that doesn't surprise me at all. I know Texas is a big place.
It's huge. But... It's crazy. Okay. Mom
Jordan Moore,
okay.
you said Moore is like a new guy, which I guess he is. Here's my thing.
I'm torn.
I'm not torn, but I don't know if he can defend at all. He can block shots, which is a really nice surprise. Like he's like an elite. Is he going to be like Danny Green in terms of he's just going to block everything, but he's not going to be very good?
Not a bad comp,
the rest of the defense,
more offense, more offense too. I don't think I've ever seen Danny Green successfully dribble.
Maybe like 10 years ago.
I don't know.
Not really.
In the Spurs system, they were probably like, "No thanks, pal."
Yeah, it really
Look
wasn't
at Patty
his
Mills
job.
now. Like, there's some weight.
Patty was doing that in San Antonio.
But Manu and Tony Parker are not like, we're just going to stand over here. You go dribble, Danny Green. It's just never been part of the equation there.
I tried, okay?
I appreciate it because I put the cop out there. But I think his defense, it could be one where everyone for years, like, Danny Green, good defender. So, good shot blocker. Really good shot blocker for his size. That's interesting. Like that's giving Aura a chance right away. He's gonna be on the floor because of that. But I'm yet to really see anything where I'm like, is he actually passable? Now the thing with shot blocking, it means he's engaged. Like he's there, he's competitive, he's focused. That's what matters because he needed to show that. Because just before the season started, I know I said in some pod that my thing with him is I think he could be a very good NBA player for many years for a bad NBA team. I just don't know if he could be good in the role the Bucks would want him to play for him to actually get the minutes. And it's kind of it's a chicken and the egg thing in terms of even what his career becomes then. If he's not good enough to earn a role with the Bucks now, well, then does he ever get a chance to go and be a bigger star on a pretty crappy team? There's something there, though. There really is something there. He is the most interesting player the Bucks have drafted in, well, I shouldn't say that. They drafted Mahmoud this year, who's interesting. Interesting is definitely a word for Rohan. But there's really something that's kind of worth seeing. And early in the season, like there are positive returns, and he's giving us that every chance. And again, like we talk a lot about, Grace and Dante. If I was Dante, I'm watching Jordan Wara play, and I'm like, oh, this is getting tough.
Scary
this is
hours.
getting tough. Yeah,
Scary
where am
hours.
I even getting in on the wing here? When
Orlando.
my injury eventually heals in 2034.
Rodney Hood hit a 3 today as well. Something.
Did he actually? I don't remember.
Yeah. I mean,
He had a 3, a rebound, a steal, and 2 fouls.
Like Rodney Hood was a good NBA player. It's really about his health. If he stays healthy and he settles in here, like great for the Bucks. Again, not good for Dante. That's the most interesting thing with the Bucks telling us nothing about him. I think it does nothing for Dante's trade value. It does nothing really for just the general sense of his place in the team. I don't really think there's any positive at this point. It's the kind of thing with a short-term injury you do, right? But when it's something that's lingering and it's all kind of top secret, that is not good. That is not good at all. Like the guys had surgery.
It's been 5 months.
We watched them scoot around. Yeah, like that was a long time ago, and
5 months. It was May, right?
Yeah,
it was late May. So yeah, it's right about now. I think 5 months since the injury first happened.
Great job, Bucks.
He got surgery pretty quickly, right? Wasn't it
right away?
A couple days. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
it's the Horst thing though. It's like, and it's the thing that I really do not like about Horst. I think it's taken to an extreme where it's not beneficial. It's
Spurs
like
culture, baby.
That is not. It's like that times 10. And even I was thinking when you started kind of mentioning Bud and his interviews and kind of how that fits with Horst earlier. It's like when Bud was with the Hawks, the Danny Ferry Hawks, was no leaks until the boat got very leaky from stuff from outside the organization. But in terms of like day-to-day basketball stuff and trades and everything, nothing came out of there. And I think the Bucks is like, 10 times tighter with one very notable exception that caused the trade to fall through. Like, but maybe that's kind of factored into just making this worse. But even now, like removed from that, it's like we talk about Bogdan, and it's still like there'll be times where it'll come up or I'll make jokes about it. Dante was the guy who was going to be going and the deal. Like Dante, it's a really
tie on Twitter.
It's
yeah,
true.
My enemy.
It's a really rough kind of now elongated period of time for Dante, and I don't know when it's getting better because they won't tell me.
So Eric Name, I think this is more of him inferring than actually hearing anything because as you've mentioned, the Bucks just don't say anything. He does not think Dante is all that close. I know he tweeted that I think a day or two ago. At some point, like if he's not able
what happened? What honestly,
I don't know what happened. Clearly,
the injury hasn't been disclosed.
Yeah. This very Kawhi Leonard.
This is wild.
It is wild. But at some point,
like Kawhi, they announced
Kawhi,
that
we know he is an ACL.
An ACL what?
That's more than we know with Dante, is the point.
We know it's his foot.
Well, technically, we know it's his ankle.
His ankle. Well,
Do we know it's his ankle?
Maybe.
I would have just said it's like on the lower extremity of his body. I
That's
don't
fair,
know.
honestly.
That's going to be Bucks injury reports in the future. Dante DiVincenzo, body.
Do we know which
ailment.
foot? Do we know which foot? I don't know which foot, but I'm wondering have they ever even disclosed what foot?
You can find
the
it.
way we would know is we could pull up pictures of him
footage.
scooting around.
Yeah. I think they did disclose it because I don't think all three of his foot/ankle injuries were the same foot, because I know he had one at Nova, one his rookie year, and then this one. I don't think they were all the same foot, but they were all foot-ankle injuries, which is concerning in itself. I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit. No, but the thing about... So if he doesn't play at all until, like, January, I don't think he's a lock to play in the playoffs. Like, it just takes a while to come back from that kind of
He's
an
not
absence.
a lock to play in the playoffs.
He's gone. He'll never
back.
play. He'll never play again. Like, you know, no one is going to be like, oh, Dante's about to be a free agent. Like, it's just... If it's that period of time, and if the Bucks look good as we would expect the Bucks to look, it's like he's good luck as Dante's agent. I don't know who represents Dante.
Octagon.
But getting the word out on the street, like, hey, look at our guy, Dante. You remember, like, national championship game? Remember that?
Hey, starter on an NBA champion, sort of. But that it plays into a point I was going to make earlier before I got sidetracked with the Semi thing. That was all of our faults equally. Is, you know, basically the case being made that, like, he might not play because look at how many playable guys they have. With this as one of them, we just know, like, they won't all work out. Maybe Semi is one that doesn't work out. Maybe Rodney Hood can't get back to form. He was terrible last year. He wasn't injured. He was coming back from injury and was just quite bad. Like, his Raptors stats are atrocious. Again, kind of a outhouse situation, but...
Pat, Bobby, and George are like, if your starters are healthy and those three guys are healthy, they're all locks. That's 8 guys. So there's maybe room for one more.
Rohan asked if Bobby's a lock in every series.
Bobby might not be.
No, he may not be in every series, but in the series where Bobby is not a lock, he may be going like 7 or 8 deep.
Yeah, you're not adding someone into Bobby.
Yes, you're just removing Bobby from the rotation
by the end of a series. I don't know. Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, no, by the end of the series. Like, yeah, I'm just saying it's possible.
Yeah.
I think this is just like an adjustment for us to make because it's the complete opposite of the depth situation we were in last year, where it's like every time you think of it, you're like, oh, well, this guy's going to be in the rotation. Of course he's going to be in the rotation. And then you actually start to go through it and you're like, wait, is he actually like 12th? Is he 12th? Would they have to be 12 deep for like Thanasis to play in the playoffs?
I think this comes back to...
Sorry, Rohan.
Whenever
no, you're good.
I think Thanasis is going to play 8 minutes per series no matter what.
Going to be a KD.
Yeah, probably. I think Thanasis will get shots on KD too. And that's that. I think I said at some point in there, like, he and Semi are battling to be the guy who gets some minutes on KD just to save everybody else.
They're battling to be the guy who gets in a fight with KD's bodyguard.
And that was a lot. That's value.
Yeah,
that is value. But we just because whenever someone asks, what kind of trade would the Bucks make? What kind of player would they trade Dante for if they trade Dante? Who would they target in buyout season? Like, I just think they're gonna wait and see. Like, I think they want it.
Who's giving anything for Dante?
I don't know.
Why?
It's just
Why?
It's a question I've been posed.
Sure, I agree because I think it's something they should have done. But
I don't think they ever had they tried.
At this point, I don't know what you're getting.
But I also think that 9 guys will probably play to start most playoff series, or more.
Yeah,
9 guys played in Game 1 against Phoenix. Game 1s are like that. You like that, especially Bud. Like,
that's the MO of the Bucks.
So I think 9 or 10.
How many minutes did Giannis play Game 1 though? Like
35.
35.
Yeah, which was on the low end. So someone's getting some of the minutes that just like, you know, when.
But they
might say when.
With
I'll say if.
Rotations in every series.
There's been studies every playoff series is like this.
Yeah.
Brooklyn,
yeah, I guess.
I
don't know if the finals would be like that under normal circumstances. If normal circumstances in the finals would ever exist.
I think if this is Mike Budenholzer, we might see 11. 10 guys plus TA.
Listen, the man just needed a chance to do this.
He's like,
he won a championship with his hands tied behind his back last year.
He
couldn't do what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And now
we're gonna see the all bench lineups in like Game 7 of the finals in the fourth quarter.
And they're gonna cook teams.
There we go.
Have you looked at the Western Conference? Oh, the Western Conference is so competitive. Yeah, there's lots of mediocre teams. It's the West.
The East is better than the West.
Top end for sure.
Oh yeah, I think all the way through. I think the 8th best team in the East is better than the 8th best team in the West. Without looking, maybe that specific one isn't.
TBD on that.
Maybe.
That's a different discussion.
Yeah,
it's a different discussion.
I haven't looked at it. I think there's just more talent in the East.
I mean, the 2 best teams in the league are in the East. So.
Yeah, the talent that matters.
Yeah, 2 best players in the league are in the East. And some guy named Kevin Durant.
Who's Thanasis? Is it Thanasis?
I don't know.
It's time to wrap.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay, do we go through all the new guys?
Mamu's not ready. I think I said that, and we got somewhere else.
I mean,
I think that's the last one. Oh, like Yorgos. He exists.
Oh, he got the team turnover at the end of that. His only thing.
It doesn't count against him though.
Yeah, it's a team turnover, so it's fine.
Yeah, he exists.
Yeah. That's all. That's all I have to say.
I think that's everyone, yeah. I mean, I don't have anything to say about Yorgos.
And you think Mamu's interesting, but I think you agree that he's just not there yet.
Oh, he's interesting because he's like, there's nothing about him you look at and you're like, this is gonna work. And then you watch him do some stuff and you're like, oh wow, this guy, to quote Rohan from earlier, it's like this guy's got some ideas. You know, he's got big ideas. You give Sandman the ball and he's got ideas everywhere. Like he's thinking of everything he could do. Whether he can actually do it, that's a different matter.
Him and Jordan Moore have a fun dynamic.
They've got good chemistry. Yeah, they clearly, and I think just generally with Manu, he seems to have like bedded in really well with the team. As a two-way guy, that's a big advantage to do that now and to get those chances now, because otherwise, like, you could just never see anyone and herd season starts and you're in a different world entirely, and then you're cut and you're out of the league, and that's that story. So I think he's had a chance to do something here, and playing pretty terribly it's not a bad thing. Like it's closer to his best case scenario than his worst case scenario.
That's a good way to put it. Also, we should we'll just say this: Giannis and Chris are really good.
Yeah,
we didn't mention them at all.
I thought it was fun that we didn't talk with those two guys at all, because it's a given. Like, we know we talk about all the other stuff.
Yeah,
no, but Chris is putting up back-to-back like high 20 score performances. You know, it's good. It's good.
Chris attacking the basket in this game was intriguing. I think we might do a podcast later this week. We'll see how it shakes out. Yeah, but I just thought it was good. We had to look at all this. It's just there's weird situations, and it's good to call out. Giannis and Chris have shined, mostly Heat game aside, despite all the flux around them. But they certainly have, and especially
we ask, oh my God, they're winning games. Yeah, it's Giannis and Chris.
Yeah, that is. Do you know how many fouls Thanasis is averaging per 36?
5.
I'm gonna go with more than that. No,
6.1.
I was gonna go with 9.
Let's expose the chat here. We were talking about in our Gyro Step group DM about Thanasis, and because Ty and I couldn't catch the start of the game, and Adam was keeping us updated. Adam said, "Oh, Thanasis is on the bench with fouls," and this was like in the middle of the first quarter. Ty thought he had fouled out.
Is it that unrealistic though?
No, it's not. Which is
it was like a minute in. He had a foul, which was
like 10 seconds in, right?
It wasn't. It wasn't.
When I looked at the box score, we were like 6 minutes into the game. I thought we were halfway through the first quarter, and he had fouled out. To be clear, not 1 minute.
He had a cheap foul. Bud pulled him pretty quickly after. Now that might have just been part of the plan, because for him, Pat came in and then TA came back in when Giannis went for his kind of typical, 5 minutes into the game, I'm going to go and have some rest. So maybe that was all part of the plan, but it was also like a typical just Thanasis is being overly aggressive. He's picked up a foul already. But no, he had not fouled out within like 3.5 minutes.
That would have been epic. He does not lead the league in fouls per 36.
I think he's done that before. He's come very close.
Ooh, can I guess?
Yeah, you can guess. It's not that exciting, honestly.
Just while you think about this, I'm going to remind you that it is past 4 a.m. for me. Just going to remind you that.
Darius Garland, who hasn't played.
What?
Darius Garland?
On the Bucks.
Played.
On the Bucks.
Oh, on the Bucks?
On the Bucks. Yeah.
I thought it was the whole league.
No. It's not that fun. It's Rodney Hood because he only played 10 minutes. But Rodney Hood is averaging 7.2 personal fouls. Also, his per 36 plus minus is 46.6. Advanced stats, start Rodney Hood.
And that's a great place to wrap it up. Advanced stats all around this pod. This is fun little discussion on all things injuries, all things Bucks. Fun times. Thank you, Adam, for this collab. It's good to talk to you again. We had Jordan on last week. We have you on today, Adam. We're gonna have more stuff going forward with the whole GSPN crew. Make sure you are subscribed to everything GSPN. What is there? There's the YouTube channel, Gyro Step Podcast Network on YouTube. There's the Substack, gspn.substack.com. Make sure you're subscribed. Most importantly, make sure you are subscribed on your podcast platform of choice. On Apple, leave a 5-star review. Come on, what are you doing, people? 5 stars.
And also on places that are on Apple, because you are both biased, supposedly.
I don't think you can.
There are some. There are definitely some.
Oh.
I mean, are we going to find them?
Well, leave a 5-star
If you leave
review
one somewhere
can.
not Apple, maybe you'll alert us to the fact that you
let
left
us know.
Yeah, tweet it to us.
Please do. If you're watching this on the YouTube feed, all of our Twitters are on the screen. So there you go. If you're not, go watch the YouTube. That's how you find it. That's a little plug right there.
And if you go follow Rohan at that handle, he's going to be tweeting and he's not going to be reading.
He's learning.
We'll see.
New way of life.
I'm learning. I'm learning how to navigate the Twitter sphere. Now I've been here for 5 years, but I'm just learning how to do it now. But yeah, thank you all for listening. Go Bucks. We'll talk to you next time.